Hello everybody, this is Bird Brain, where here we are nerdy for the birdies. Today we're going to take a look at the edge rushing position for the draft. I apologize for this video taking so long, but I really wanted to take a little extra time on it to get it right. I do have a planned safety one to come out very soon, and potentially one more next week just before we get to the draft. Anyway, so let's talk edge. And really, before we get into this video, before we talk about the players that we have here today, I really want to focus, kind of want to explain really what we're looking for. So right now with the edge position for the Eagles, they could use an edge too. They may not need it depending on how these guys turn out this year that they already have. But they definitely need depth at the position. There's a future for Bryce Huff that's uncertain. Nolan Smith is coming off of a tricep injury, and we still don't fully know what we have in Jalix Hunt. You've added Josh Uche this offseason. You added Azeez Ojulari. So really with this edge class, you're not going to find a guy in it that's good, like, realistically for the Eagles, I should say. You're not going to find guys that are going to be regular 10-sack, 12-sack guys. And those are rare in drafts. I mean, I personally in this class, the only one I really see is Abdul Carter that could have that potential, and I'm not even sure he's that good. But he's really good. You're going to get a lot of solid rotational pieces, and you can find them throughout the draft. So there's different players, and I'm going to highlight a few of them here for you guys to hear about. So anyway, this is kind of in order from a little bit of a mix of how much I like them to where I realistically think they could be drafted. So it's a little bit of both. Anyway, so let's begin with our first edge rusher. We have Donovan Ezaraku from Boston College. He's actually a local kid because he's from Williamstown, New Jersey, so that's kind of cool. This is probably one of the more least likely guys the Eagles could get because he's a mid-first round pick. He's going to probably be taken in the teens. But if he slips in the 20s, could the Eagles trade up for him if they really like him? I do like him. He shows solid power. He's not a very good bender, doesn't have a lot of moves, but he did get results. And I understand the argument for his school that, he didn't play in a college where he went against a lot of elite talent. I mean, Boston College isn't bad or anything like that, but it's like, you're not facing like the best talent, you're not facing the best tackles and all that stuff. But the fact of the matter is, if you can produce, you show those traits that you need while you are producing, that stuff's translatable to the next level. And, I always scout the player, not the helmet. I think that as I watch him, I see the traits there, and I think he's a solid guy. So I would kind of be my priority edge rusher if he's on the board close to 32. Next is Princely Omamielen, the edge rusher from Ole Miss, and I really like a lot of the players from this Ole Miss defense. You have Walter Nolan, you have Princely, you have Chris Paul Jr. or Trey Amos in this class. This is a really good group of defensive guys. There's a couple others too. And I really liked watching him on tape. He kind of reminded me a lot of Hassan Reddick, a little bit, just how disruptive he can be. I know one of the concerns about him is, while he did play in the SEC, he was more productive against, worse tackles than others. But it just felt like a lot of the times when I was watching anyone from Ole Miss, he was one of the guys that kept popping out to me on tape. And he would make plays. And again, kind of that same way Reddick was. He's not like an elite run defender, but I think he's a really good pass rusher. He's got good bend, really bendy, if anything. He's got kind of that kind of snake-like quality that you see in guys like a Von Miller that can just slide around the edge. But yeah, I just really liked watching him, and especially considering he had 10.5 sacks this year despite playing in only about 10 games, I think it was. He missed a couple due to injury towards the middle of the season. So, just a really good edge rusher, someone I think could fit in this defense, and he does show an ability to drop back, as Ezaraku does as well. But I think I liked his ability to drop back a little bit better than Donovan. Next, we're going to have Nick Scorton, who, it's funny. I originally did record this video, and then I went back and rewatched Scorton, and I started to see a bit of a vision for him. He's not someone that really stands out a lot. He's not like a flashy edge rusher, but you see a lot of good solid traits with him. He's one of the more bigger edge rushers that we've looked at here and I think the biggest one of this group, if I'm not mistaken. But Nick Scordon, he's not going to set the world on fire. He could be a first-round pick. I think Princely is more a firm second-round pick than he is, but I think Scordon could go end of first round, right around that range where the Eagles pick. You could trade back and probably get him as well. But I think he's definitely someone more in the mold, similar to Sweat, where it's a bigger edge rusher compared to the other guys that are a lot smaller and twitchier. He does show some solid moves. Again, I consider him like a jack of all trades, but a master of none. But I kind of liked coming back to him a little bit more, and I was like, okay, I can see the vision, and it also helps the team has met with him. The Eagles have also met with Ezeraku and a couple other guys on this list. And I believe they've also met with Princely, not as a 30 visit, but I think it was like a pre-visit thing or something. Next you have Braden Swinson, the edge rusher from LSU. Now the Eagles have not met with him, but this is someone I was watching, and I just really liked what I saw. Especially I think it was USC he had a really good game against. He's someone, though, that when you play better tackles, he's not going to be very productive. I saw that against, I think, Alabama. He had a very quiet game. Doesn't get too involved in the run game, but again, a solid edge rusher. I think he's a sneaky guy in this class that I think could have a much better career than people project. I think he's like a second, maybe into third round pick. We'll see how much the NFL really likes him, but we'll see. I very much enjoyed watching him on tape. Then you have David Walker from Central Arkansas. And if you're not familiar, it's a FCS school, so of course when people hear that, they're going to question the competition and whatnot, but this guy is disruptive, and it just felt like he was explosive. It took me a while to find things that I could watch of him, but once I did, I got to watch that. I watched him at the Senior Bowl, going up against other tackles in this class, and he had some wins there. But he's just a disruptive guy, and if you have not heard this name, one thing if you have heard this name, I should say, one thing people have brought up with him is he reminds people a lot of Brandon Graham, and I kind of see it too. Just that kind of tenacious, disruptive nature, and he plays hard, and I kind of like that. And again, if you're scouting the helmet, you're going to question, like, oh, how good is he really? My honest opinion, you got to look a little bit deeper. You got to look at the traits there, and that's the stuff that'll translate at the next level. We see guys go to some of the elite schools, and those traits don't translate at the next level because, maybe they just don't have them, and they were just playing in good schemes and good offenses that could mask that. If you have good traits, you can make it in the NFL. And the last player I really want to talk about is Femi Oladejo. He's a linebacker / edge rusher from UCLA. He used to be a full-time linebacker, and I believe he made the switch to playing edge. And he's someone I could really see as like a later day 2 pick around the 3rd round. Another player the Eagles met with. I really liked watching him because I see the traits there, and especially I see it in some of his coverage a little bit. I can see kind of the vision with him. It kind of reminds me, not exactly because they're very different prospects, but it reminds me a little bit of Jalix Hunt, where you have this guy that has this very different background than playing pure edge, but has now that versatility to where you can do a lot of different things with him, where you could drop him into coverage, where you could, blitz him off the edge, or maybe even think about him for special teams, the way that Nolan Smith did, or Jalix Hunt does. You're going to need somebody to fill those roles, or Patrick Johnson when the Eagles used to have him, although he is back now. Yeah, that's really the main edge rushers of this class. I did want to touch on 2 that I don't think will be available when the Eagles pick, but 2 that I want to talk about for a different reason. That's Mike Green and James Pierce Jr. And these are 2 prospects that have a lot of upside, a lot of traits, and are most likely going to be first-round picks. But there's some questions about both, and there are some things that have been said from the Eagles organization hinting to players they will and won't draft, and there's a concern, and the Eagles haven't been afraid to draft players that have concerns in the past, but you do really want to think about maintaining this culture, maintaining the winning and the success, and you have to find ways to do that, and you don't really want to play with fire here. So these are players that I essentially could see, and I've seen people mock to the Eagles, especially Pierce. I just don't know if the Eagles will take them with a lot of the baggage that they have. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this edge rushing video. I will be doing a safety video later on this week. Anyway, this is Bird Brain. Hope you guys enjoyed being nerdy. Fly, Eagles, fly. See you around.